So, all you scared to death Negroes, just sit down. Don't you come out to defend our enemy. You sit down and you shut up and tell your master to come on out and deal with it.
Okay, I'm feeling a little Pentecostal, Brother Hanif. Open us up in prayer.
Yes, ma'am. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Yawmiddin. Iyaka na'budu wa iyaka nasta'in. Ihdina as-sirata al-mustaqim. Sirata alladhina an'amta alayhim. Ghayril maghdubi alayhim. Waladdallin. Ameen.
We can begin with the video.
So today, whether you like it or not, God brought the idea through me. And he didn't bring it through me because my heart was dark with hatred and anti-Semitism. He didn't bring it through me because my heart was dark and I'm filled with hatred for white people and for the human family of the planet. If my heart were that dark, how is the message so bright, the message so clear, the response so magnificent? And so we stand here today at this historic moment. We are standing in the place of those who could not make it here today. We are standing on the blood of our ancestors. We are standing on the blood of those who died in the Middle Passage, who died in the fields and swamps of America, who died hanging from trees in the South, who died in the cells of their jailers, who died on the highways, and who died in the fratricidal conflict that rages within our community. We are standing on the sacrifice of the lives of those heroes, our great men and women, that we today may accept the responsibility that life imposes upon each traveler who comes this way. We must accept the responsibility that God has put upon us, not only to be good husbands and fathers and builders of our community, but God is now calling upon the despised and the rejected to become the cornerstone and the builders of a new world.
Yes, yes, yes. What a beautiful introduction for what we want to share with you. And I'll turn it over to Brother Khalid Muhammad, who's going to introduce us to our first guest. Brother Khalid.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome, students. My name is Brother Khalid Muhammad, and I'm a student at Hampton University and a member of the Demand for Separation United College Students. Now today we have as our guest for our 4th summit, honoring the 25th anniversary of the Million Man March, a long-standing brother in the ranks of Muhammad Mosque number 15 that has served as an orientation instructor, lieutenant, student minister, non-ministry organizer, husband, and father of 4 children, who have all registered as believers. He worked actively after the Million Man March with the Atlanta Local Organizing Committee. Now let us please welcome Brother Sylvester Muhammad.
Assalamu alaikum.
Islam, sir.
Yes, sir. First of all, I'd like to open in the name of Allah, His greatest messenger, the most honored Elijah Muhammad. And I'd like to say that all praise is due to them for this gift that we have in the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And I'd like to say that there is no God but Allah and Muhammad. We, especially you young people, are his messenger. We're about to pass this baton to you now. But before we pass it, I want you to understand one thing. The Million Man March did not happen in a vacuum, okay? This teaching that Allah has given us called the supreme wisdom. The supreme wisdom is not the teachings of the prophets. It's the teachings of the gods that brought the prophets, Okay, so we got a direct link here to God himself. Now, let me say this before I get started. 50,000 years ago,
Well,
two
Brother
stars.
Sylvester, can we have the brother ask you the two questions to begin your?
Y'all got old man fired up over here. Y'all
I know, and we loving that fired up spirit.
come on, big brother.
This young man got two questions for you. Go ahead,
I'm
Brother
listening, young
Khalid, with the
man.
questions.
Yes, sir. We have two questions. All right. Now, the first question does have two parts. So now it is, from your experience as an FOI, what happened that led to the Million Man March? And can you share with us your experience of the events that took place leading up to the Million Man March?
Leading up to the Million Man March. I got to go back to that 50,000 again. Because Minister Louis Farrakhan talked about them in the criteria. Okay, now here we are 50,000 years later, them stars up there again, universal change. But it started with the fulfill of prophecy. Prophecy is being fulfilled because we are the fulfillers of. The minister said, I am the fulfiller of all prophecy. We are. Now, in the book of Exodus, okay, exit, going out, leaving, chapter 12, and I'm just gonna quote 12, 40, and 41, but all of 12 is dealing with the sojourn of the children of Israel. And it says that the sojourn of the children of Israel in Egypt, I'm not talking about the phony children of Israel, I'm talking about black folks in America, the one the minister was just talking about. The sojourn of the children of Israel was 430 years. Now from 1555, when John Hawkins showed up on that ship called Jesus, to 1985, it's 430 years on the head. Do you understand me? See, we walk in prophecy. We live in it. All right. Now, four things took place. Four things took place prophetically as we go on toward this Million Man March. And one of them was drugs became the #1 employer of young black males. That's a part of the conspiracy to destroy the black male. Number two, AIDS became known as a problem amongst black males again. Then number three was really king to me because it's where I got the whole concept of the Exodus 40:41 from, and that was the missing and murdered children here in Atlanta. Now, during the missing and murdered children here in Atlanta, I was about 19 years old. And I mean, I was riding my bicycle from Bankhead over to McDaniel Street trying to catch who was killing our children. And as Allah is my witness, if I had caught somebody, they would have died that day. But after I couldn't figure out what was happening, then I threw my hands up and sought refuge in Allah. And Allah showed me that chapter I just read, 12, 41, and 40 and 41. So it didn't happen in a vacuum. Now, the fourth thing that happened was Minister Farrakhan's more than a vision-like experience, the night journey, where he talked to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad as he was taken up to the wheel. He talked with the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and the Honorable Elijah Muhammad verified everything I just said, that they were waiting. I mean, that was a war being planned against Islam, black youth, and the Nation of Islam in particular. And so he said, go back, tell them you got it from Elijah Muhammad on the wheel. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Now, 10 years later, of course, he made that known 4 years later in Libya, but now here we are 10 years later from 85 in the Million Man March. But before the minister's Million Man March in 1984, Minister Farrakhan was doing his tours, Let Us Make Man. And New York, the words went out. He said, I bring 1 million. He said, I didn't say it, but he tried to get them back, but he couldn't because God did through him. And when he came to Atlanta, there was a series of ministers that he talked to. You want to show the picture, sister? Leading up to the Million Man March. Minister Farrakhan came down. He spoke to the concerned black clergy. He spoke to Reverend Joseph Lowry over at the SCLC. He went with Joseph Lowry. Are we there? Okay. The one, of course, you see Minister Farrakhan sitting down with Joseph Lowry, a picture of Martin Luther King up over them. Okay, that's to the right. That's up above that one is Minister Farrakhan coming out of the SCLC. You can see the picture of Martin Luther King over the SCLC. We talked to the concerned Black clergy from Reverend Timothy McDonald's church. He did an interview with the Vision Project. And the last thing he did was he put to Martin Luther King and had all of those beautiful leaders up there. You see them, Joseph Larry, Jose Williams, you know, Sister Minister Ava, all right, and Brother Ben. They're there to put a wreath on the front of Martin Luther King's grave in the spirit of the Million Man March. Now, when the minister came back again to speak at Men Only at the Omni, you can bring the pictures down now. When the minister came back to speak again at the Omni to Men Only, let us make man, it was powerful, filled to capacity. The minister put it down and he left and went back to Chicago. But while he was leaving that day when we were leaving the march, or the call to the Million Man March, preparing for the Million Man March, a young brother was going home to Bourne Homes and he was killed by one of his peers. He was shot down dead. And we got the message back to Minister Farrakhan, and Minister Farrakhan got the message. He got back on the plane, came back to Atlanta to eulogize Brother Kerry Johnson. He and the picture that wasn't there, but he and, you might have seen it on Facebook, he and Congressman, somebody help me out, Congressman,
John Lewis? No.
John Lewis, him and Congressman John Lewis eulogized the young brother. I didn't have that picture in my package at the time, but the minister did, he did a scholarship in his name over at Benjamin E. Mays School. And I mean, just show the beauty that the minister and the love that he had for our humanity and our people, that he would come back, eulogize, and then proceed on to get ready for the Million Man March. So that's leading up to.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. That was deep.
Yes, well, thank you.
My last question, brother. This also has two parts. Can you share with us your experience on the mall on October 16th, 1995, and the message from Minister Farrakhan, and your biggest takeaway after the march was over?
Well, Minister Farrakhan, I want to give a thank you to Brother Steve Muhammad. Brother Steve Muhammad was most significant in organizing the buses throughout the southern region. And we had as many as 35, maybe 40 buses going from the Atlanta southern regional area up to Chicago. I didn't want to get on the plane. I wanted to ride the bus. And that spirit that was on that bus of the unity and the spirit of us going to the Million Man March, even before we got on the bus, Sister Ardetta can bear witness that the sisters were there giving us care packages. They were giving us lunches, and because they knew we were going to get on, do what we had to do and come back. Now, one of the reasons that we didn't invite the families to go is because we really didn't know what was going to happen on that mall. From what we understood, that everybody had left Washington, D.C. From the president to the Congress, everybody was gone. And we got a wind that there was the military somewhere up underground waiting to see if they could have a reason to come at us. So if we were going to go to war with this beast, we didn't want no women and children in that particular fight. So we got on the bus, we drove through the night, and as we approached Washington, D.C., we just saw lights everywhere, just cars coming together. There was no traffic jam, but at the same time, it had a steady heartbeat of Black men coming into Washington, D.C. And I mean, it was an overwhelming as far as you could see it. Everybody hollering out their one and swinging the fist of unity. And then, because we had to do security when we got off the bus, we had to change right there in the bus with our FOI uniforms on and head toward the mall. As we were flowing toward the mall, the ocean of Black men in harmony, union, love, and respect coming into the mall. From what I understand, our older man got sick and he did pass away. But praise belongs to Allah. But we got inside the mall and prayer had already been said. And when we got there, it was 1 million on the mall already. Not to mention another million trafficking in. So we got there and, you know, it was just one beautiful day. Like I said, it was a glimpse of heaven. But let me say this, that 10 years, I mean, after the Million Man March, in my perspective, in reality, represents what I believe to be the Sermon on the Mount. The Sermon on the Mount was followed by, as it ended that day, with the Beatitudes. As Minister Farrakhan began to have everybody to take the pledge and told us about the attitudes we should have when we go back amongst our community, when we go back amongst and the type of respect we should have for the Black family, et cetera, et cetera. Those were the Beatitudes. Here's this is one of the curriculums that we have for manhood training. And I went back and got busy training in born homes and training young brothers in community centers. Okay, here go a couple of magazines right here. You might have saw this right here. This was this is Ministry of Rage. This is 1994. This before the year before the march. Time magazine. And then that month, about October, this was in October after the march, it was that Time magazine. So they seen that they called it a joke. They thought the so-called Million Man March. No, we had not only 1 million, but we had 2 million to come. And brothers went back and began to make a difference in their community. And I'm just so thankful that I was able to be a part of that. But I want to say to all of the young people, Allah promised you, and his promise is true. It's the devil that will promise you and fail you. I've been with this since 19. And one thing that Dr. Elijah Muhammad taught us was that God promised you luxury, money, good home and friendship in all walks of life. And I want to say that Allah's promise is true. I've had it all and I have it all. And I'm saying this is your promise too if you are desirous of being true. Okay?
Yes, sir.
Any more questions?
No, sir. Just thank you. Thank you so much, Brother Sylvester. And we pray,
Well, thank you, my brother.
That lives
thank you
up
for
to
the opportunity to serve. Praise
sir.
Belongs to Allah. All praise. Thank you.
Sir. Long live the spirit of the Million Man March. Yes, sir.
Long live the spirit of the Million Man March.
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
Praise God.
Thank you
so much, Brother Khalid. Passing that baton, Brother Sylvester.
Passing the baton.
You. Praise be to Allah. So at this time, we want to address something that, of course, the liberated minds of the Black woman always want to know, well, why wasn't I? Why weren't the women at the Million Man March? Well, those who are divinely guided know that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, he's not an oppressor of women. He elevates women. We have an example that from even this forum, this summit, the demand for separation is led by a woman, Student Minister Ava, who in fact was the first student minister installed as a woman in the Nation of Islam as a minister. So there's no question as to the oppression of women, but it is the role of the woman. And what was the role of the woman for 1995, October 16th? To answer that question, we have none other than our fabulous Southern Regional Student Captain of the MGT and GCC, Student Captain Nusaiba Muhammad. Can we bring her on with a round of applause, teams?
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Okay, I'd like to open up in the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful. I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, who came to us in the person of Master Fard Muhammad, and I further bear witness that the most honorable Elijah Muhammad is indeed the exalted Christ, and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is our divine reminder. I'd like to greet all of you, Assalamu alaikum, to all of the administrators of this wonderful, wonderful summit. Thank you for starting the great dialogue and not letting the spirit of the Million Man March die, because it was absolutely heaven on that day, because as a woman, what I know about the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and have been blessed to be able to see up close is his sincere love and appreciation for the mind of the Black woman. He has many sisters who he uses to receive information and inspiration from as relates to women's rights. And the Million Man March was nothing short of that. The sisters that were involved had great impact, great measure with decisions and the program. There were many women there. As I said, I was blessed to be there, serving in the capacity of honor guard to assist many of the female dignitaries that we had there at the Million Man March. So the women were alive and well. And the greatest role that I played as a female for the Million Man March was supporting my husband, who was working to get buses up to Washington, D.C., to get other Black men up there. So that was my number one accomplishment, was helping my husband not only get to the march, but also supporting him and him assisting to get others there as well. So by Allah's grace and mercy, the women played a major impact. We will not allow mainstream media to make us think that this was a sexist march. The only people who think that is the devil, satanic mindset that is of those who speak it. Because those of us who were there, those women who were at home just to see the Black man coming together, the history of what we've had to go through, to see the dreams of our ancestors being answered and responded to by the millions of Black men who came at the call of the servant of God in our midst. And they came in like saints rolling down. You will never be able to demonize that moment. You don't have enough power in your media, on social media platforms, to take away the impact of the Million Man March. They gave us a blackout all on the October 16th in the efforts of trying to keep the spirit of the Million Man March down. But you could see through the energy of the people, through the programs that we had, whatever you did in your homes at the Million Man March will never be forgotten. It was a day that literally was heaven, and I will never forget walking on that stage on October 16th, 1995, and as far as my eyes could see, all I could see was the Black man coming towards the area that we were in, and it was such a wonderful feeling. I literally felt like I was in heaven. And if we could have that day, again, as the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan spoke of in the latest edition of the Final Call newspaper, we can have that day every day if we strive to submit to Almighty God Allah. And so the woman was alive and well in the Million Man March, the Millions More Movement, the Million Family March, 10, 10, 15. We are here. Our voices were heard, will continue to be heard, because the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has taught all of us the value of the woman. So we played our part, and we're so excited that Allah blessed us through the womb of the Black woman to produce all those beautiful Black men that came on that mall on October 16th, 1995, one of the best days of my life. And me and my husband on October the 16th was just as giddy. We were running around like we were there. We made history, baby. You know what this means for our children's children, that me and you were there at that march. I mean, and that's something that we carry on our shoulders, and can't nobody take away the joy that we feel about that day and about the man who called it, who God used to call that special day. And as they said in the festivities on October 16th, no other man could have called that. God knew exactly who he was bringing that message through, and that's why the people responded. So long live the spirit of the Million Man March. I am so grateful to Allah that I was blessed to be able to be a part of history, and now to be able to share that history with all the young generation who now in your minds you are forming, how can we keep the spirit moving? Well, then I have helped to do my job by keeping the spirit of the Million Man March going. So thank you so much for allowing me these brief words, and may Allah bless you all to take the spirit and embrace that day in your hearts, your mind, and most importantly, the message of atonement, reconciliation, and responsibility for all of our men and all of our people. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you, Sister Captain. Thank you so much. Let's give her a round of applause so she can hear and feel, because in that photo that I didn't want taken down yet, I wanted to be able to identify our Sister Captain in that photo when she was coming down those steps. And also the late and beautiful Sister Sharifa, the minister's wife here in Atlanta, she was on that step. Sister Aisha was on that step. So the soldiers for Muhammad were women also present. So we thank you. We thank you, Sister Nusayba, for representing the strength of the woman, because we could probably have another session just talking about the challenges. But Black woman, young Black girl, college students, understand that Minister Farrakhan, like Sister Captain said, not about no sexism. It's about rising to the occasion of your God-given gifts and talents that represent the femininity of the Black woman given to us by God himself. Thank you, Sister Nusayba.
Thank you.